My name is Daniel Rubiano. I'm a musician and artist and a writer, and I am fascinated by the melodies that bind us. As one of the 3.5 million American descendants from Ireland, I've always had a longing to return to the land of my ancestors. So I decided to take a trip halfway across the world, traveling town to town to learn and witness an intimate view of how the Irish culture lives and breathes through their instruments. That's why I take the Backroads to music. These are the back roads that take you through the County of Clare, located on the west coast of Ireland. The views are just spectacular. It's like every image Hollywood implanted in your brain of the place, only now it's in motion. You can finally reach out and touch it. My wonder, desire to learn about my heritage, and affinity for music have led me here. I want to experience Ireland firsthand from the locals and learn about their music, but in a different way, by living it. The whistle is one of the earliest instruments used in traditional Irish music. My new friend Kristen, a teacher and musician, suggested we see how our styles blend together. Without any rehearsal, I began playing an original composition, and almost instantaneously she started playing along, following along note for note.
That was awesome. A really cool thing that you put on top of it.
Oh, yeah. It's very unusual for my ears.
That's what I was afraid of. I thought that the melody
It's really
and everything.
lovely melody.
This was my
I
first
love
contact with Irish music and its culture,
Yeah, really nice.
and it made me anxious to learn more about it.
Kristen, so what was Irish traditional music like 100 years ago?
Well, Irish music used to be played at the crossroads outside, where there was a big open space, and the community would meet and they'd dance, they'd do their dances and play the music. Come the 20s or so, the clergy didn't like all this merriment going on outside, so they decided that they'd try and they set laws that dancing and music could only be played in the dance halls, and these halls appeared all over Ireland, and they were of course kept an eye upon by the clergy, you know.
Oh, so they prohibited things? They actually watched over it?
Yeah, I mean there's always this sort of the devil's music, you know.
The prohibition and restrictions on music have long since been abolished. Nowadays, you can hear traditional Irish music on a street corner, in a park, or most famously in pubs where a bunch of musicians gather to play in sessions.
As far as I know, the session actually came about in London. There was so much immigration going on. The Irish were leaving, they were going to America and Britain to find work. And these Irish communities built up, and they'd get together and play in the public houses there. And this idea of getting together and playing music caught on back in Ireland.
And so the session was born?
Yeah.
What's a session entail for us?
A session is it's an informal gathering of musicians, and can range anywhere from 2 people up till 15, and they need to have a common repertoire. There's thousands of tunes in the Irish repertoire, and they draw on this common repertoire and they play together.
What were sessions like 30, 40 years ago?
For me personally, they're much the same, except there was a lot more alcohol involved, I'd say, and a lot more wildness in the pubs, because I lived in Doolin Doon is about 8 miles down the road, down the coast, and that was a pretty wild place in the early 80s when I arrived into it. And we played all day and all night there, but that wasn't particularly normal. It was just the way it was there. It was a kind of centre for musicians to arrive in and to not leave.
And what instrument is this that you have right
This is
here?
a bouzouki.
Bouzouki?
Yeah, and it's in Irish music about 60 years now. I kept saying 40 years and 50 years, but it's approaching 60 years now. A fella called Johnny Moynihan, great musician, great singer, went off to Greece in his holidays in the 60s and came back with a round back Greek bouzouki.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of liked it. It kind of suited the tunes better than the guitar, in many people's opinion. So almost every band in the country now would have a bouzouki player.
Are they primarily for melody or for?
No, well, they're primarily for accompaniment. I certainly play it by accompaniment. Yeah, it kind of gives a little drone and a tinklier sound than a guitar. Because I enjoy it so much, maybe it's just what I do well.
Is there more freedom in the session comparatively?
Well, there's
to...
more sociability. No, there's not. There's no. It's a different. It's not. It's a different set of. Yeah, like you're working with musicians in a session.
Back in the 60s and 70s, there weren't really paid gigs in pubs. Nowadays, most musicians, 2 or 3 musicians in a session would be paid to be there.
Yeah.
To guarantee that they have music and they have a crowd, and there's a lot of visitors and tourists to the area. But back in the day, people used to just meet up in a pub and play for pleasure.
Yeah.
And probably back in the 60s, 70s, they probably used to be throwing a few pints as payment.
What's the main thing that's changed then over time?
It's gotten. I don't know. It hasn't changed that much. A good session is still to be found. I don't think that the music has changed in any drastic fashion.
How's it gotten like less wild?
Yeah, but that's not a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing?
No, it's not a bad thing because it's more about the music now. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, it was more about maybe. I didn't mean to talk about it, but it was probably more about the alcohol fueled fun. You know, maybe more people in the bar were involved in the session, in the sense that everybody was kind of on a buzz together. But I think the music is probably. It's not. There's not as many characters now, but there's a huge amount of great musicians around now.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, everybody's a great musician now.
Yeah.
But there's quite a lot of musicians maybe that weren't at the top of their game, but were just great fun in those days.
Do you think like the pleasure has been taken out of it since it's more about playing for the crowds now as opposed
To a certain extent, you could say it has done, because if you're playing with the same person 3 nights a week over the summer, you end up playing the same sets of tunes. It can become like a job.
Yeah.
But what's nice about this place, the roadside in Lisdoonvarna, is visitors come and join in the sessions. So there's always a mixture of musicians. Like I think tonight, there's the usual guys that are here, but there's also a gang come down from Kerry to play.
Oh wow!
So they'll just be sitting in.
That's fantastic.
You know, so that changes the whole mix. Like the boys won't be playing the same stuff they played last night because new influence has been brought in, and people might suggest tunes like Kerry tunes are different than Clare tunes.
Oh, so everything's different regionally?
Different styles, and for example, in Kerry they would play a lot of polkas, which is a different beat and a different lift.
A famous musician walks in here. If he wanted to join a session or start one of his own, would it be treated differently? Would there be a division? Or?
I don't think so. No, I think one thing about Irish traditional music is it's equal across the board. You know, it doesn't matter if you're the neighbour from down the road or if you're famous. You lose all that when you sit down playing a session. It doesn't matter whether you're a doctor or a brain surgeon or a farmer. It's one part of life where it doesn't really matter who you are. You know, nowadays it's big talk in bars and in places. Who are you and what do you do and how much do you earn? And it kind of puts you in a category or a class. But when you sit down to play music, that's what you're there for, and it's a shared passion between everybody, and it doesn't matter where you're from or how much you earn.
So the music just unites everybody into one sect. That's cool. No divisions.
No divisions.
I think all folk music, or I don't really like the term folk music, but traditional music or all music of the people. It's there's no like if you go to Cuba, I presume it's the guy playing the piano in the pub is not that different than the guy playing the piano on the concert stage, you know. And Ry Cooder would have proved that by going down there and meeting up with the Buena Vista, who are all shining shoes, and it's the very same in Ireland. There's the greatest musicians in the country in each little village that never leave that little village sometimes.
And you call it music of the people. What makes it music of the people for you?
Because it's community driven. Here we're in the Scanner now, and if somebody in the Scanner was having a christening or a 50th birthday or an 80th birthday, it's normal that they'd have a few tunes, you know, and dance a few sets. And you know, when it's really down to the wire, we all kind of love the music, especially here in County Clare. You know, it's just part of every occasion and every it's everywhere. You know, and more than ever it is now. You know, which is good.
What do you think's made it more prevalent in recent times?
Well, we went through a stage in Ireland where everybody was looking for loads of money and to have 4 or 5 houses, and now we're back to the stage where we're supposed to be poor again, even though there's nobody really poor. We're struggling. People are struggling, but I think they're realising again that what they were missing in life was just that basic stuff of having a party with a few tunes and having a bit of a dance and a few songs. Just basic stuff that means so much to people everywhere in the world, I think, when it's done right.
Traveling through the small towns of the county of Clare, there's one major constant that I've noticed. The music has so much power. There's this unspoken respect for it. Even in the small town of Lichtenvarna, which has a population of 822, they've erected these small statues to celebrate and honor their time-old tradition. Kilfenora is one of the oldest urban settlements in the county of Clare, with a population of only a couple hundred. This is where I would come to meet Paddy Rick Howley.
My grandfather, who was a great musician, he had 9 children, and none of them ever played music.
Wow.
And now my 3 girls, who are his great-grandchildren, the 3 of them play music. So sometimes in traditional music, you can skip a generation.
He was a prime example of that love, honor, and respect for traditional Irish music. The Irish didn't just play music, it was a part of them.
What was your first experience with music?
My first experience of music would be in my mother's and father's house many years ago, as probably 3-year-old. And usually my father would say, it's time for bed, because the music would start at about, we'll say, 9 o'clock, summer's evening, even right through the winter time. But usually it was summer's evening, like, you know, I hated going to bed too early, so the sun was shining and we had to go to bed. Then the music would start, and you'd have members of, we call it the old Kilfenora band, where I'm living now, and that was my first memory of music. And I'd lay in bed trying to sleep, and the music and the dancing would continue in the kitchen right next door.
For those parties that would keep you up all night long, was there music and was there also dancing? Or?
The reason you had house dances was people were very poor at the time, so they had no money. There was no such thing as going to bars and going to clubs, or there was no such thing as a disco or anything, so they had house dances. So what happened was, when people had finished their work in the evenings, they'd come to our house. That was one house, like you mean. There was other houses around the country, but the Kilfenora area, they went to Howley's house to learn music and learn dance. So one complemented the other. So I remember as a young lad, every night I listened to music, and I also listened to the beat. You know what I mean? And there was the beat was it wasn't like we'll say the Irish dancing nowadays. It's like the river dances of nowadays. Like it wasn't. It was just back to the basic beats, and they called them sets. And in every county there was different sets. We had what was known as the Caledonian set. You know, and in every set there was 5 figures. But that was danced in our house every single night of the week. Every single night. And there was a beat. That's what was done. That might sound easy now. You get 14 or 15 or 16 people, you know, trying to do that.
And what made you want to start playing the music?
Because there was nothing else that time. There was the sport or music, you know. We didn't have television. We had a radio, but there was very little traditional music on the radio, so it was all in houses. And when I was growing up, all my friends wanted to dance and they wanted to play music, so it was part of the norm just to do it. But I always wanted to be able to dance, and I always wanted to be able to play it, and that's the reason. And I wanted my children to be able to do the same thing, and now they're doing it. You know?
Do you think we could see an example?
Of course, yes. We'll show you the basic step of the sets, you know, that started off. And hopefully my daughters will play a few tunes to you as well.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
I'll
Thanks
show
so
you.
much.
Come on, Charlie, we'll show them how to dance. This is the basic step. It's 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, and back. 2 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, and back. 2 and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. That was fine. You'd learned that.
Yeah.
When you had that learned, then you had to ornament that.
Oh.
So what you did is you go. Right, and and that's what you had to learn properly.
Yeah, that's where
and
you just
people will
lost
tell
me.
you, like, you mean you're doing that wrong, you're missing a beat or whatever. That's what it was. But that was basically what it was all about. And that was the real step. Then you had a jig step,
Yeah.
which is 1, 2, and up she flew, and back, and 2, and up she 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. That was called the jig step. And then you had the hornpipe, which was another way of doing it. And the hornpipe went. Right? That was the basic steps. Now, nowadays you have all this fancy stuff, like, I mean, they're kicking up their lives. That wasn't there in no time. That wasn't there in no time. Like, I mean, we learned how to dance. And the closer you kept your feet to the ground, the better dancer you were classed as. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's the opposite.
Pardon?
Now it's like the opposite.
Now it's the opposite. Like, I mean, now they want to jump up in the air.
Now
Like,
it's
you
all
know?
about, yeah.
But my father, like, I mean, you'd never lift his shoes off the ground.
Yeah, I can see where you get tired doing that.
Yeah.
You will get tired doing that. And especially, you see, because you're double beating your right foot,
Yeah.
and it's like playing a drum.
Yeah.
You're doing the bass with this one.
Yeah.
Now it's difficult in tiles. If you had a flag floor, it's way nicer.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. You know?
That's fantastic.
That's what we did, and that's where the music came in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
had
yeah.
to have. You couldn't. We call that humming. Diddly-diddle-doo-dum, diddly-doodle-doo-dum. But you couldn't hum and dance at the same time, so you had to have musicians.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how it all came
And
to
that's,
be.
I'm sure, how the rhythm gets embedded in you.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
I bet you can go up and do that now.
Maybe the first step, and beyond that, we'd have to see. Get a few Guinness in me, and then I'd be okay.
But you can imagine, you'd have to do that maybe for 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to get it. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
And that was done every single night in our house.
Now see, what's fascinating is that their music is preserved from generation to generation because they're around it from infancy. They hear these reels, these jigs, these tunes almost every day. So it makes sense that when they teach it, they do it by sound and by sight. This rhythm, you know, it's embedded in their DNA.
The music is, for me, it's everything. It's my whole life. It's something I just got stuck into, and I love it, and I live it. I think maybe in a lot of cases in Ireland, many of us learned music from our mothers. When I was a child, most women in Ireland were housewives, so they didn't work, and they stayed at home. So when my mother would have been ironing the clothes, she'd be singing all the time. When she was washing the dishes, she was singing the whole time. So I would have learned songs, or I would have been aware of songs from my mother since before I could talk. You know, there was always songs, and parties in Ireland, every occasion is not an occasion unless there's a sing-song. We call it a sing-song.
I used to play the whistle, and one night I just kind of ended up singing a song and realised I really liked it. So from then on, like, I just mainly play tunes, and I sing the odd song every now and again.
Yeah.
We're trying to make a CD at the moment.
And what do you think, like, gave you the passion for it, like, to keep carrying it on ever since you were a little child?
I suppose singing is all about telling a story,
Yeah.
you know, and I wouldn't have that many songs because I'm quite picky about the songs I choose. You know, if I hear a song and it hits me there, that's what makes me learn it and want to sing it.
Tonight, the pub was full of life and clinking glasses. But once Katie started to sing songs of Ireland's oppressed past, her voice turned everyone silent.
Side by side together to face the common foe that will tear our love asunder. Tooraloo.
The locals say that their music correlates with their land. It comes from the soil. And their tunes are inspired by the rich countryside and their rich history. And with views like this, it's no wonder where their inspiration comes from.
Now ye fair weather friends, where are you now? I need you. Gone like the autumn sun on dark December mornings when hard times come around.
Their music is a generational link. It brings all ages, classes, and types together. It's the foundation of their community. They socialize through this community.
Most of the musicians now, nowadays they learn by note.
Yeah.
But years and years ago, people couldn't read or write, but they could listen by ear and take it up by ear and play by ear. And that was the beauty of it. And that's why I wanted my children to do it. All my children you could play a tune for them now, and they'll play it after you. No notes in front of them, no music, no anything.
And he wasn't embellishing. I began playing one of my songs, and within seconds, Shannon and Tara were embedding their music into mine.
The problem about playing music, traditional music by note is you may not have the right rhythm. You'll have all the notes, but you could miss the traditional rhythm. And that's what I noticed, and I love listening to music, and I love seeing people playing, and people ask questions like, how did this happen? You can't, no one can answer that.
Yeah.
It's just part of the...
Just part of your tradition, part of
Part
your
of
way.
our tradition, part of our way. There's something unique about Irish traditional music, Like, for instance, you say you play the guitar.
Yeah.
Well, if you learn an Irish tune, an Irish traditional tune on the guitar, you will never forget it. It goes into your mind and your brain, and it just, if I hear music now, tonight, I'll be humming that music tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day.
So you guys are just programmed for it?
Yes, and that's what it is, and it's just, okay, you have rock music, and you have, I'd listen to country and western music, like bluegrass music.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have the same effect on me.
The more you sit in and play, the more you learn. It kind of goes into your head. Mm-hmm. I'm learning the pipes at the moment.
Oh, really?
The Uilleann pipes. And I suppose I'm finding it quite easy because I have all the tunes in my head.
How many tunes do you think you have in your head right now?
Right now?
Yeah, could you not even count?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
Just all lodged up? Can you?
Yeah, hundreds.
And do you remember it all by sound, or do you know the exact keys? This is going to be A, C sharp.
I'm not great with keys. I'm not great with keys.
When I say one, I'm talking about, we'll say 4 of that one, do that kind of way. So if I say D, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So you're gonna go D, da, 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 D, A. So you're gonna do a full D, and then you're gonna go to A. So it's gonna be D, E, 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 D, E, E, A, 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 A.
Sorry.
Okay, so it's very fast. D, D, da, 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 D, D, da, A, A, A. So straight away, start again. 3, 4. D, da, 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 A, D, and then you go right back to D again. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, not too bad. First dive in. What made you guys want to like stick with the traditional Irish music?
I suppose it's where we're from, like, do you know what I mean? It's so, do you know, like our great granddad has played, and it was just kind of, we just loved it. We just grew up.
Yeah, we
playing
don't
it,
know
like.
anything different, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
It's just like, and the flags would have been a big thing, like we would have been involved a lot with like bands and groups, like friends, so you know, with a big group of friends.
Yeah.
So we'd all grow up together, so you know, it's kind of impossible to get out of it even if you wanted to. You know?
And then how important is it to you guys to keep this carrying on? Like, do you plan on teaching music to your children?
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it was such a big part, it still is such a massive part of our lives, like it always will be.
Yeah.
It's always with you. It's not as if you can go, okay, I'm done, I'll leave it down for a day.
Yeah.
You're always humming, or you'd be dancing, or you'd be
something.
humming along to the radio, or, you know.
Yeah. So the music's just a part of you no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
Ireland is a country rich in oral tradition and culture, and the same can be said of their music. It's something that's cemented in them, it's in their foundation, it's something sacred, something that's truly personal, but they're willing to share it immediately. I went to Ireland to experience traditional Irish music and walk along the same back roads my ancestors walked before me. I experienced this, but the strangest part was that no matter where I went, I was treated like family and felt at home. The music bound us.